First they loved the joint, now they are running from the joint. Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for a sequel to a film I just reviewed, and it's for a comedy sequel. This film was released 4 years after the original movie, and it is the second installment of the series, released in 2008. And that film was going to be for none other than 2008's comedy sequel, Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. This time directed by John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg, replacing the original director. So yeah. Anyway, what's pretty much the plot of this one? Well, this one, sequel, is actually set right after the first film's ending. Because the morning they returned from their White Castle road trip, because you remember at the end of the first one, Harold found out Maria was going to be going to Amsterdam. So Kumar gets the idea that him and Harold should go to Amsterdam to pursue So Harold and Kumar decide to go to Amsterdam because Kumar does not want Harold to have to wait 10 days to see Maria again in case she gets hooked up with another dude in Amsterdam. Eventually on the plane, Kumar gets this stupid idea to light up this new bond that he got because he wants to smoke weed and doesn't want to wait till they get to Amsterdam. But the problem is, the air marshals think it's a bomb, and Harold and Kumar are arrested as terrorists and sent to Guantanamo Bay. They do manage to escape, make their way to Florida, and head for Texas to find Kumar's ex-girlfriend's fiancé, the well-connected Colton, and get him to interstate with Washington on their behalf, and clear their names. But Kumar still has his name for Vanessa, the feds are in hot pursuit of the two, and the legal weed of Amsterdam seems a long way away. So how was this film made? Well, after Harold Kumar Go to White Castle was a decent success at the box office and a bigger one on home media, a sequel was obviously planned. Hurwitz and Schlossberg, who wrote the original first film, were this time around at the helm as directors and writers for the follow-up from their original script, replacing the first film's director Danny Lair and making their feature directorial debut at the same time as well. On January 2007, The Hollywood Reporter announced that David Krumholtz, Neil Patrick Harris, Rob Corddry, Christopher Maloney, Ed Helms, Eddie K. Thomas, Paul Garces, John Conley, and Roger Bart, Neil Harris and Eric Winter would join John Cho and Cal Penn and Harold Kumar 2 at the time. At the time, originally was pretty much going to be about them going to Amsterdam, but then it got changed to them going to Guantanamo Bay instead. But there was a feature on a DVD where you can select a short film or an alternate timeline where they do make it to Amsterdam as like a short film featured on the DVD's release. And Warner Bros. Spokesman said that originally the film was supposed to be produced as a direct-to-video film, but then Warner Brothers decided to make, and New Line Cinema decided to release the movie theatrically. And the film cost about $12 million to make this time compared to the $9 million the first one costed. Filming then began in the third week of January 2007 in Shreveport, Louisiana. Filming concluded in March 2007, in which Cal Penn was able to start guest teaching some courses at University of Pennsylvania for their spring 2008 semester. So after the movie was officially completed, Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay was theatrically released in the United States on April 25, 2008 by Warner Brothers, the first New Line Cinema title released after the studio's acquisition by Warner Brothers. The film received mixed critical reception, with praise for the performances of Cho, Penn, and Harris, while some found it inferior to the first movie. Conversely, however, the movie was better received by audiences and has gained a cult following. It was also a bigger commercial success and grossed over $43 million worldwide this time, a massive improvement from the box office of the first film. And then another sequel, A Very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas, would be released 3 years after this in November 2011. Now, as for my reaction to this movie, well, I'm gonna be honest. I remember not being too fond of this movie when I first saw it. I found it just okay, really. Nothing really too memorable like Go to White Castle was. However, the more I have rewatched this movie as the years progressed, I have found myself liking the sequel more and more often, especially in today's world. Like, if you enjoyed Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle and have any reservations about the sequel, fear not. Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay is not quite the same as its predecessor by a hair, but it brings enough of the story mechanics back in the stoner humor that made it a cult success. Like writers John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg, who serve as directors this time around, have upped the ante like the sequel cliche goes. There's more nudity, more swearing, plain old vulgarities every single second. As for the premises bland setting up of racial stereotypes and epithets, even those who get a shot of adrenaline going from the city streets of Alabama, KKK Kager, and the bigoted government official is unable to dismiss the weird Chinese dialect called English spoken by Harold's parents. Definitely ain't pretty, and body fluids flow freely, but the laughs never cease. When your goal is to bring the funny, and there are times when one, and there's some times where maybe it won't work. Success, but can still work anyway. Success will be coming. And the beauty of this film is the amount of fun these guys are having. Like, to get all the principles back for a second go round of a film that did not bank at the box office is quite the feat. Sure, DVD sales and internet buzz was huge for the original, but did anyone ever think the boys would actually get to Amsterdam on the big screen? I know, it didn't really seem like a lot of people would have faith. Like, people could badmouth this effort very easily for many reasons. Most obvious is the fact that it's pretty much the exact same film, somewhat same film as the first. Yet there were a few instances where I wasn't really laughing, let alone smiling at the proceedings. What else can you see a nod to the classics like the Goonies done so well? Like, the biggest, kind of like the one concern watching this was kind of with the terrorism war satire that the trailers tried so hard to get across before I managed to watch this movie. And when you put an actor to play someone like George W. Bush, it can backfire and go completely awry. Like, surprisingly though, that scene with George Bush among others are actually very well done. In that particular, the American government is portrayed offhand actor Rob Corddry is pretty much the worst part of the film, spearheading that aspect. Don't really just like his shtick yet there. There's always someone there to play the other side with just Roger Bart, and show that while they know there are mistakes, there aren't a bunch of buffoons going around willy-nilly. Like, if nothing else, this film should kind of be credited for finally having the guts to, like, poke fun at the tragedy of 9/11 at the time. And I think that humor was pretty necessary around the time this movie came out for any sort of healing process. And to have the fortitude to do the airplane scene with Kumar laughing at his Tablean garb motioning at a crashing airport is not something to tread with lightly, really. Hurwitz and Schlossberg even decided to go pedal into the metal with this film, and they never make a compromise, which is pretty much credit to them for that. I even love how this film picks up right where the first movie ended, so you could pretty much watch this in the first back-to-back and pretend like they are one big 3-hour comedy movie. Sure, it's juvenile, but they know, and so should you. But really, does one ever see poop and pee jokes go hand in hand with two of these lovely characters? So there's good writing, good jokes, facial expressions, the works. The ending is a little rough here and there, but I can imagine a lot of the actors couldn't finish their lines because of the fun they must have had making this. Neil Patrick Harris's fictional self even reappears in this film, still playing the same fictional self. He is in this franchise all boozed up, drug addicted, and extra horny, and looking for some rough sex in a local brothel. And Rob Corddry is kind of one of my least favorite parts of the film. He was alright, really. It's a hard-boiled but brain-dead Homeland Security investigator. He's pretty much the antagonist of this movie. Yeah, this one does try to add an antagonist. Here, I'll get to that in a bit. There was a great redneck sketch featuring an inbred child locked in the basement. And the big stars here are once again John Cho and Cal Penn, who give great chemistry as Harold and Kumar. And they pretty much struck gold in this franchise. Now back to the villain. We have a villain in this movie, unlike the first one was kind of just really jerks as the enemies they encounter. The villain in this movie, Ron Fox, is kind of meant to be this parody of racist and lazy detectives and officers. Specifically, there was one funny scene he has when he's listening to Danger Zone from Top Gun while eating Whoppers and drinking water on the plane. Even still, despite knowing they're innocent, he's still pursuing Harold Kumar despite not even being terrorists and even getting called out by Roger Bart's character, who is assistant throughout the entire movie, to the point Roger Bart's character finally snaps at the end and stands up to him before he unfortunately meets his end. But to be fair, Ron Fox, he is alright. He's not really all that memorable, really. He's not the most memorable part of the film. But like the first movie, we follow these two jokers from incident to incident, each playing like a standalone comedy skit, because they try to evade the capture from the Department of Homeland Security, and now with their new quest of looking at Vanessa and Colton and seeing if Colton can clear their names and get them off the hook, cope with Kumar's own kind of selfish vendetta, disrupting the upcoming wedding proceedings. I was even somewhat surprised that this movie had some semblance of a film's plot to follow, but it's not mindless random episodes just all the way, such as throwing in the KKK rally out of nowhere. The jokes come to you at all angles, like verbal, slapstick, and sometimes just plain irrelevant. For those who are relative, you'd probably find format as source material for most of the jokes, ranging from the homophobic to the racist, executed to sublimey, and you'd probably feel guilty for laughing aloud at the funny bits, but it wants a movie like this without the usual gratuitous shots of the body parts, female male like, with gender on display without a ting of embarrassment like with the bottomless party. And what more, the camera lingers, especially when filmmakers John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg wanted to probably perpetrate their version of happening bottomless party in your face. Yep. Topless is pretty overrated according to this movie. Now, is there bad qualities though? Yeah, there is. And there are kind of why the first one's slightly better. Like, for starters, this movie, Harold was still likable, but I felt like he was kind of a bit of a prick in this movie, because he keeps overpraising this character, the character Colton, who I really don't like. Colton I just found very unlikable and annoying, especially near the end of the film. He was just kind of a pointless character, really just this irritating typical douchebag that obviously betrays them anyway, because he doesn't even clear their names. He instead rats out Harold Kumar to Ron Fox anyway because he doesn't want Kumar stealing his fiance. And that's another thing with Kumar, like Kumar kind of also isn't really any better. He kind of still screws up a lot of stuff for them. Like, during the time they're on the run, Kumar tries to use his phone and contact Roseburg and Goldstein, even though they're not supposed to be calling anybody when they're on the run, basically. So it basically just reveals their location. And the only reason he agrees to go with Harold's plan is just because he wants to steal Vanessa, because Vanessa was his high school crush. Yeah. Because this movie does give Kumar a love interest in this movie, who is Vanessa, once again. I'm also not a fan of her either, and I found her kind of pointless. And I'll reveal why in the third one. And I also did not like that this movie was overly vulgar and explicit, even more than the first one. Like, come on, guys. Like I get the first one was vulgar too, but it wasn't like this overboard. Like, holy crap. Like, it doesn't really help that the fact that the movie even starts with Kumar basically the first scene is Kumar taking a shit after eating 30 White Castle burgers while Harold's taking a shower. It's kind of how the movie starts up, and at first it almost made me think the movie was gonna suck. But thankfully it didn't. And I can let those bad qualities slide, because, once again, I don't think the sequel is the weakest of the trilogy to me. I think, personally, this was still a pretty good end to the story. And it could be a nice little epilogue to the first film. If you watch this and go to White Castle back to back. Really? So other than those bad qualities, I still find Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay to be an underrated sequel, and I think it deserves better praise than what it usually gets. Some seem to call it their least favorite of the trilogy for me. Their least favorite of the trilogy, but for me personally, the weakest of the trilogy to me would probably have to be the next film I'm going to review in this series. I even feel like this movie should have been the end of this story, because the end of this movie kind of wrapped up the story pretty well. Not like the first one, which kind of sets up a sequel. This one didn't really set up a sequel at all. So, in the end, If you love the first film, then I would easily recommend Escape from Guantanamo Bay if you want to see what happens after Harold and Kumar make it back home from their White Castle trip. Anyways, that's it for my review of Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. If you're wondering how I'm going to rank Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you loved Harold and Kumar and want to see the duo again for a second outing, then I would easily recommend watching this film and then buy it and add it to your collection for sure. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay, I'm going to give Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay an 8 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. And now that I've covered the first two movies, now I can finally kickstart reviewing Christmas films. Starting off next, because the next review is going to be for the third one, which is the Christmas one. A Very Harold and Kumar Christmas, which I just watched yesterday. So yeah. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe to Don G. Corleone.